Han, there are 3 sentences. Please tell me which one gets the most attention.
Number 2 gets my attention.
Why?
Number 2 uses the verb exists, while the other 2 use is. Is indicates less sense of action.
Good for you. You see, you have very good observation. You're right. Effective language use is very important in public speaking. In this unit, you'll learn 3 things. First, some requirements for speech language. The second, some traits of using spoken language in speeches. And the third, some tips to use language more effectively. Do you still remember my metaphor of a house about public speaking? Yeah? So when you know how to organize a speech and support it with relevant evidence, you've just built up a simple or rough house. You need to paint the house and use some decorations to beautify your home. This job is called effective use of language. Basically, the speaker will choose the language to communicate ideas, and we call it verbalize ideas concisely and accurately, create vivid mental images in audience minds, create a bond or connection with audience, and increase the audience understanding. When you deliver a speech, your audience don't have the chance to re-listen to your talk, as they may over a book or newspaper. Your spoken language can help them follow you closely and remember the key points. Appropriate and effective spoken language used in public speaking has some traits. They are simpler, familiar, vivid, and figurative. To use simpler language, the speaker avoids long, complex sentences as the short ones are easy to catch and remember. The speaker also chooses to use fewer multiple syllabic words or shorter words. As speeches are presented orally, audience need to hear the core of the message repeated consistently. Repetition helps audience become familiar with a short piece of the speech as they hear it over and over again. By repeating a phrase during a speech, you create a specific rhythm. Probably the most famous and memorable use of repetition within a speech is Martin Luther King Jr.'s use of "I have a dream" in his speech. He repeated the phrase "I have a dream" 8 times to great effect. Here, I would like to draw your attention to 2 sentences describing SUV sales. Look at it. Which one is simpler and more suitable for public speaking? The first sentence, despite the fact that SUVs have a high center of gravity, which enables them to roll over at low rates of speed, and their fuel consumption is essentially toxic to our breathing air. The sales of SUVs are on the rise. The second sentence, despite safety and health concerns, SUV sales are on the rise. Yes, number 2 is more suitable because number 1 is too long and hard to catch when spoken out orally. Okay, 2. By familiar language, I mean language that is familiar both to you and to your audience. Don't let your audience guess what you mean. If you are not comfortable with the language you are using, then you are going to be more nervous speaking. This will definitely have an impact on how your audience receive your speech. You may have a hard time speaking fluently and sincerely if you use unfamiliar language, and this can impair your credibility. Furthermore, you want to make sure that the language you are using is familiar to your audience. Otherwise, you will not have an effective speech. Now look at the 2 statements about the misery of homelessness. Comparing them, which one touches your heart more? Which one makes you experience the misery of homeless people and develop more sympathy for them?
Being homeless is terrible. You never have a place to sleep. You are always hungry and you constantly have to be on guard. What is it like to be homeless? Imagine yourself as Vicky, a 17-year-old homeless teenager. You wake up every morning so hungry that your stomach hurts, and the stench of nearby garbage makes you nauseous, and you are exhausted from sleeping curled up behind a cold dumpster. And even though you are tired, you can never go to a deep sleep because you have to be on your guard, making sure that you're not going to be hurt, molested, or robbed. But this is not the worst part. The worst part is today and tomorrow and next week and even next month will be no difference. Maybe you can live with the cold sleep, the hunger. How do you live without hope?
Yes, the immediate and familiar language in number 2 really works well. 3. Vivid language can make the audience hear, see, smell, touch, taste, and feel the thing being mentioned. Please build up your vocabulary pool about the sound, sight, smell, touch, taste, and movement. By using such expressions, you can quickly grab your audience's attention and help them fill up the cognitive gap between you and them. Please look at these 2 descriptions about being hit by a bullet.
While I was parachuting into Panama as part of Operation Just Cause, I was wounded by a tracer bullet. The darkness of 2 o'clock in the morning was penetrated by streaks of red light, marking the path of tracer rounds as they cut their way through the night. Suddenly, I felt something hit me in the right leg with a force that spun me around like a twisted yo-yo at the end of a string.
Sentence 1 is a simple statement informing just what happened. With vivid language, sentence 2 has a rich sense of picture about the light, time, body movement when hit by a bullet. As for figure of speech, it can add a rhythm and increase your audience interest. You may often use 2 types of figure of speech: simile and metaphor. Such technique draws a comparison between 2 dissimilar things.
A tornado is a wild animal snarling, twisting, turning, and devouring everything in its path.
This sentence compares tornado as a wild animal. With all the verbal descriptions, you can imagine its destructive power. In the case of a metaphor, one of these comparison items is said to be the other, even though this is realistically not possible. Let's look at one example. Love is a battlefield. From this short metaphorical statement, you may at once feel the unpleasant experience the speaker has undergone in love affairs, possibly full of constrictions and fights. Okay, the other thing I need to remind you is words can hurt and heal. So remember to use inclusive language by following some rules. Rule number 1, no gender-based pronouns. Don't just use he or she to refer to an occupation. When referring to all audience, you need to specify the gender of them. Can you tell what's wrong with this sentence? The problem is the word she as teachers are not females only actually. There are a lot of male teachers, right? Rule number 2, no us. It refers to a specific group among audience. Don't impose your thought on the audience. Maybe they don't agree with you, right? They are not one of us, and they have different positions. If you say let's or let us, then they might feel not so pleasant because they don't want to be included. Rule number 3. No racial, ethnic, religious, disability, or gender-based humor or joke. This is easy to understand, as your audience may belong to different social groups. No one is happy to be mocked at, right? Be watchful when you use some trendy words, as some may imply biased perceptions. To create a certain effect, I would like you to remember some tips. You can try to use these tips to make your language more powerful. First, you can use antithesis, 对照. It's a technique presenting contrasting ideas in parallel phrases. Look at this famous quote by John Kennedy in his inaugural address in 1961. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Second, you can use inversion. That means changing the expected word order for emphasis. Look at this example. This insult we did not deserve, and this result we will not accept. See, right? The insult and the result are put in the beginning of each short part of the whole sentence. So it's an inversion. Third, you may use parallel construction. Use repetition by words, phrases at the beginning or end of sentences. They are very powerful. They can add strength to your talk. Look at the following 2 examples and determine which one sounds better to you.
Give me liberty, or I'd rather die. Give me liberty, or give me death.
Technically, you are saying the same thing in both, but the second one has better rhythm, and this rhythm comes from the parallel construction of give me. The lack of a parallelism in the first example makes the sentence sound disjointed and ineffective. Fourth, to make your speech lively and real, you may exploit the sounds of words. For example, alliteration. Alliteration means several words in a sentence all begin with the same consonant sound. Let me read one statement for you. In this summer, the southwest seems sinister. The sun beats down so harshly that you can feel your skin sizzling beneath your shirt. In this example, 8 key words start with S sound. You can feel how hot the weather is. Fifth, you can use onomatopoeia, meaning words that imitate natural sounds. Look at these 2 examples.
Silence your cell phone so that it does not beep during the movie. The best part about music class is that you can bang on the drum.
These onomatopoeia words increase imagery effects. How many words do you know? Such kind of sound words? To test this, please check out our self-learning section. We have a list of different sound words. So far, you've learned tricks and tips of language use in public speaking. Interesting, right? Wait a moment. This is the verbal part that can catch your audience attention. You also need to deliver speech with appropriate nonverbal language. See you pretty soon in Unit 8.